I'm I'm Bobby Lewis. I'm here at the Link School today in Colorado. I'm sorry I'm not out there with you all to receive this award. It is an honor to be selected for the David Andrews Award. Thank you. Um, I want to start by saying how inspired I've been over the years by other Principia graduates who have devoted themselves to giving since leaving Principia in the mid 80s. I've looked at my classmates and those that I knew from Principia that have devoted themselves to the Christian Science practice, that have gone into the military and served as chaplains in the military. I look at those that are serving in camps and schools, those that have served in the Peace Corps and AmeriCorps, and those that have taken their resources and devoted themselves as philanthropists to giving. And I've been so inspired by the ways that those of you that I've known have just given yourselves to service of your communities and the broader world community, and that has meant a lot to me. I came to Principia with a little idea of what I might want to do. I didn't end up pursuing any of those things, and it was in those 4 years at Prin that it really shaped the direction of what I found myself called to. During those years, I spent summers mostly out at the AU ranches next door at camp, and used to sit and listen to Cap Andrews around the fire. And one thing in particular, beyond the story of the lodge burning down, that stuck out to me is Cap would talk often about the idea of the hole through which you give is the hole through which you receive. That idea of opening up those avenues of giving in one's own life through giving to others really spoke to me. I started to learn how to think beyond myself and beyond my own desires and needs to what I could give, and that was a real spark for me. In going to Principia, I had the opportunity to meet David and Helen Andrews, and I think it was junior year, David came to myself and some other students who were poli-sci majors. The public affairs conferences had been defunct for a number of years, and he said, we ought to restart these conferences. And we got together, and he was the mentor, and we worked towards, in my senior year, restarting the public affairs conference. And we had a conference on U.S. foreign policy in Central America. And that work together with David had a huge impact on my life along that same theme of beginning to think outside myself. Really, I learned to think more and care about things just beyond my own scene, and that was a huge thing. I began to learn how to listen for direction in life instead of just doing what came into thought. And I began looking for ways to make a difference for good. And David played a huge part in those things, and being involved in that public affairs conference did as well. And it was right after the public affairs conference had ended. I'd spent some time in the Marine Corps before coming to Principia and thought I was heading back to the Marine Corps, which in fact I did, but in a very different capacity. I was sitting up in the library one day and third floor and watching someone walk across the chapel green, and this thought came to mind very clearly: go introduce yourself to that person. And it was a distinct thought. I got up and walked downstairs and walked out across the chapel green and caught up to them on the steps of the chapel and introduced myself. And I asked him what he did, and he said, I'm a chaplain. I hadn't really heard of that. He explained to me what he did as a Christian Science chaplain, and in that moment, I knew. I knew that was what God was calling me to, and it was a remarkable feeling of just being willing to yield to that direction as to how to serve and how to give of myself. And that was hugely attributable to my experience at Prin and my experience of learning from David. And I was really grateful for that, because what I learned in those years was to look for the need that extended beyond myself, and then to look for ways to help be a part of the solution to that need or that problem. And I left Prin feeling very blessed by what I'd learned in terms of that. It's been some years since then. I don't know, 25 years maybe of work since concluding it at Principia, and there have been a lot a lot of different paths along that same calling. I had some time back with the Marine Corps as a chaplain and with the Navy. I worked at the Outward Bound School next door at the Adventure Unlimited Ranches, now here at the Link School. And been in all those things. I feel like I've been learning a little bit more each day about some common things. And I just wanted to conclude by speaking briefly about those things. These are the things that I feel like I've been learning since Principia. First, in working with teens in all those settings, Christian Science teens, other teens, I've been learning about how to put Jesus' teachings into practice in terms of leadership. For one, Jesus taught servant leadership. It's been a bit of a buzzword lately, but I have to say that our society doesn't focus much on being a servant. It focuses more on that concept of being a chief. And but I love the idea of servant leadership, to serve others, to lead others by serving, to lead by lifting others up, by being a servant. And Jesus was the example for that. I've been learning more a little bit each day about what Jesus taught in the parable of the tares and the wheat, in terms of devoting yourself to nourishing wheat instead of pulling tares, especially working with kids, with teens, with students. There can be so much focus on trying to figure out the problem and correct it, and yet it's not what Jesus taught. What Jesus taught was to nourish wheat, to focus on the answer, to point people in the direction to go, to inspire people in the direction to go, and then to let God speak to them, and not to focus on the problem, but the answer, to nourish wheat. I learn a little bit more each day about that. Key to that, I think, is the idea of waiting on God and not feeling like it's up to any one of us personally to help another. It's never about personality. It's always about opening those avenues to letting God do the work, to wait on God in a way that in your own consciousness, in your own prayer, you're confident in God's ability to care for that need. And that prayer about the other's receptiveness to what God is saying to them. I learn a little bit more about that each day. Two last things. One is that I really believe that everything in life, everything with students, can be interpreted in two ways. That it's either love or it's a cry for love. It's not about trying to figure out what the problem is and solve the problem. If it's not love, it's a cry for love. And then the question is, how can that cry be met? And that's what I feel like we do in our work, is we hear those cries for love and look for ways in which God's meeting that need. The last thing, I wake up each day and I think not about what great thing could be done today, but I think it was Mother Teresa who said, it's unlikely that any one of us will do great things, but she said, we can all do small things with great love. I think that's everything in working with students, is looking for all those small things that can be done with great love. And I find that in the work that we've been doing, if I can put those things in some way into practice each day, to be a servant leader, to nourish wheat, to wait on God, to see things as love or cry for love, and to look for all those small ways in which love can be given, that our work is effective, that it helps, that it blesses. And it certainly has been blessing us. And thank you for honoring me with this award. I am sorry I'm not there. Mom, thank you for going out and receiving this award, and God bless.